Spiritual Bites, and we have 3 of us on this morning, which is awesome. So lovely to see you again, Nick, after your beautiful time away.
Thank you for excusing me the last couple of weeks. Had some much needed ocean time, and the ocean is still in my hair. I haven't washed it out yet, so I'm bringing the energy.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so nice I know what it's like because live next to the ocean, and I'm just putting in the thing, and I'm just doing stuff as I'm talking. um, so lovely to have us all here. We've come on a little bit late, but hopefully people will start seeing us soon. So we're doing part 2 of spirituality, science, and religion. We had a great conversation yesterday. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a tiny bit of feedback, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming from. I don't know whose one it is, but anyway, hopefully it's all okay online. Last Monday we had a great conversation, the start of a very deep conversation about spirituality, science, and religion. So we decided we'd do part 2 and just extend that. And because you're here, Nick, it'll be great to hear. So what we were talking about, I don't know if you've had a chance to look back at it, being on holidays and everything.
Totally fresh.
Yeah.
Any kind of preconceived anything.
Yeah. So what we were talking about was how they're very connected. They're very, very similar, right? And so I'm just going to check to make sure we're online, because this is unusual that we don't have anyone.
It's weird that I can hear your feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback?
I'm also just going to pop my earphones in to see if it helps limit some things.
I'll just ask Irene. I can hear some feedback.
The sound seems to be okay through my phone. Doesn't seem to be too echoey. That's better. I think it was Asha. I think. Okay. Talk again, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I don't think it was me. I'm doing the same as I normally do. Is that right?
Yep. It's fine.
Now we've got someone watching. I don't know who it is. I would love for you to say hello. This is what happens when you're on live, right? Sometimes it just goes a little bit crazy. So let's just go for it. We may as well just keep carrying on. We basically wait a minute. Irene's saying she can't see us. Let me just.
We're definitely on my Facebook page, but I don't know if we're on your. I can't see it.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't know why we're not on
Women of Light.
Yeah.
I could try. I wonder if I could share it into there. Or if Irene could share it.
Yeah.
Share to group.
Yeah, I have no idea why that's
Okay, I've just shared it into Women of Light from my Facebook page, so that should work.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if
for some reason it just hasn't.
It says it's online on yours, but it says sending data. for Women of Light. I have no idea why. Anyway, as long as we're on and people are sitting there going, yes, we're watching, but we're confused. Come on, just keep going. So basically last time we were talking about all three being very very similar, and I'll start us off. Maswell, one of the things that we were sort of talking about is that or one of the things I'd like to bring up is that all cultures have some sort of creation story, right? And throughout history, all the stories and myths, and even science has got its own, like, you've got to have some form of faith with science, because even the Big Bang, right? Like, it's a theory, and people have come to it, like, it's spoken about so often and so much that people see it as a fact, but it's still a theory. And so there's got to be a big level of faith in all different levels of the different stories, but all of them have basically the same sort of theme running through them, that like something started from nothing, that and it was light and sound. Like, when you look at all the different creation stories, you've got the Big Bang, you've got Genesis from the Bible, even the Egyptian and Australian stories. They've all got this same sort of theme of this entity, or this oneness that wanted to express itself. And the Egyptian one, I know, was that it was lonely, and so it became different parts of itself and created the gods, and so all of them are really got this level of the hero's journey, or the heroine's journey of it's all about self-actualization when you look at it. And even in a different way, science has got that same experience. It's lagging behind a lot, because it's got fact, all of it has to do with fact, and so it's disconnected itself from nature and the web of life, as the Native Americans call it. So it's disconnected itself from that side of things, but from the magic. Yeah. And so but it's still this, like this story of, when you think of our own journey, like this separation from the mother or the creator, and then coming to understand ourselves as an individual, and connecting with that part of ourselves, and then somewhere having the dark night of the soul, or feeling like there's something more, and having some sort of actualization come about that causes us to connect in again with something, and learn more about that, and heal those different parts, the masculine and the feminine, and then find ourselves in the oneness, or that's where we're heading, in the oneness of creation again, right? So it's really interesting when there's so many different, it depends on what you relate to as to what what you're going to experience, and it's been okay with understanding that we all have different stories, and they're all just connected to the one universal truth, right? It's just different stories about that. So whatever story it is that you're relating to,
and the way that we as individuals connect with that divine truth is a very solo, or like personal experience to each person. And the way that I deeply relate with that is the religious journey of my grandparents, and the way that they experienced divine love, or they would say God's love, and that feeling of oneness is different. The pathway was different to how I experienced divine love or connection with my highest self or my soul, divine. But the feeling is the same. And I think where people lose it is this right and wrong, trying to prove that their pathway is the right way, which creates separation.
Division.
Feeling, if we all, I had this beautiful experience yesterday. I did a workshop that was yoga and movement, and it was like an hour of rolling around on the floor and moving our bodies and breaths and really getting into the heart opening space and that divine love space. And it became really evident to me when I came out of that and people started chatting. And then, of course, the vaccination topic came up. And the division started from everyone. As soon as everyone started talking about their own story today, the division was back. So when we weren't speaking and we were just in divine flow, and it was such a massive example to me of what we are all doing, every day.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to talk about my experience of the science part of it as well, because I'm not a sciencey person. I don't remember long words. That's what I have Asha for. I call it Asha speak. Joe Dispenza's work really resonates with me because he's done so much scientific study into the work that he does, and the work that he does moving people into divine love and keeping them there for a length of time that allows their mind, body, and spirit to really align and get rid of all of the BS that's been holding them back, and how that physically shifts illnesses and, cancer and all sorts of things. And I don't understand why that is, but I just know that it's true. And so for me, my trust in the science is other people do the studies on that. I just know what is true for me and what shifts me, and how I get into my own flow of divine love, what that path is for me, and I honor that and respect everyone else's. That's my
and just to add to that, one of the things that I think is just a little bit out with science, not science, sorry, with religion, is that they take everything so literally. Like that it's seen as fact instead of seen as a conception or as a story that has all these different elements. Like one of the things, in my opinion, the 7 days, God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, right? And us at the end of those 7 days. Well, I've heard when I was looking into all of this in my, late 20s, early 30s, that the very first word eros that was said of the 7 eros was actually that it actually means era. So, but it's been conceived as 7 days, and so everything's so literal, and put the science of fact into religion and spirituality too. Like the very alchemy of turning lead into gold. People have been trying to do that for as long as it's been, a concept, thinking that it's a literal thing, but it's not. It's actually moving something from non-precious to precious. It's a story again, like it's a journey again, of our creation. And that's the thing, when we can experience, and words, oh my gosh, as you were saying, like everything, like the very first, in the Bible says, God said, let there be light, and there's a lot of different the same, you know, with a lot of different religions. They've got, you know, and the word was said, you know, so you're saying that here you were rolling on the floor and everything was beautiful and divine, and then words came in and created division, whereas words could have been keeping, you know, moving into creation and unity if chosen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's just there's so many big concepts that we cover all at once, and it's kind of like, all right. So there's been, I mean, there's just so much to comment on. I think we could do a year-long series on this, and us all be evolving as we go.
Yeah.
And I think so there, in terms of those common threads, and very much like last week, Elizabeth, you know, I've been continuing to kind of chip away at my own understanding of this topic, which for me means kind of getting more versed in the more biblical side of things. And in doing so, you know, I've been watching some lectures and that kind of thing, and very much to both your point, when a lot of people have this discussion, there's such an emphasis on squaring off belief systems, you know, and there's like a vehemence in going, well, this is this belief system and this is this belief system, and therefore they're incongruent. And for me, it misses the point of the underlying threads consistent in them all. And when you bring it back to the consistent threads, for me, we have to ask ourselves, what is the evolutionary purpose of these threads? Because for something to last across the history of humankind, there has to be an evolutionary thread. So it's not just these made up stories that people go, oh yeah, that sounds a bit fanciful, but I allow myself to believe in it enough for pure belief's sake. No, it has to be deeper than that, because that's where atheism. What is that? In the, like, they kind of take it at that really literal sense and go, well, that seems really nonsensical, and then I'd have to be a fool to believe in the nonsensical, right? And through that, they've taken the baby out with the bathwater, because we all know when you hit that dark night of the soul, that belief is the thing that will carry you through. So and that's not, you know, speaking about a specific belief system, but it's the construct itself of belief, you know, that our life means something. Because the challenge with throwing it all out and going, well, I'm just going to stick to scientific facts, where that actually stems from is our evolutionary need for certainty. You know, and that's what I observed in these kind of religious debates is this fear of, well, one, if I believe in something that kind of seems fanciful because it's a fable, it's told through a narrative, which means the suspension of the analytical mind. So that's a permission that we have to give ourselves to go, the utility in this is the suspension of the analytical rational mind that is the cornerstone or the founding principle of science. So you have to be willing to suspend that, which means you have to be willing to start engaging with uncertainty and the unknown, and ask yourself, what is the utility in engaging in the unknown? Now, if you then go into Dr. Joe's work or the quantum field work, what all of that theory posits is that life and creation can only manifest in a new and brilliant way through entering the unknown. And that's the purpose of faith, right? That's the purpose of a belief system, in going, I'm able to suspend my logical analytical mind, because it's very easy to pinpoint holes in any fable, because you're looking at a fable through a fact lens, and that's not the purpose of a fable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So you in term and it's not necessarily people's fault. Well, it's not people's fault, because one of the principles that I personally come back to is that people don't know what they don't know. And so that's okay. And so then the entire expansion work is around, okay, in understanding that people don't know what they don't know. And until people come to a pain point in their life, like the dark night of the soul, it's very unlikely that they're going to suspend their current reality enough to even entertain the idea of the unknown. Because why would I entertain the unknown if all of my certainties to date have kept me safe, alive? And then this point occurred to me this morning when I was mulling these things over. There is a difference between safety, which is the purpose of having certainty, and the absence of suffering. And people confuse the two. They go, well, if I'm safe, I'm not in suffering. No. People are typically, in our modern day world, safe. We have our core survival needs present. We have access to clean water, to enough nourishment, to protection. So physically, we're safe. So then, but a lot of people are in sufferance. So if you cling to certainty, which is facts, with the belief that it's going to move you away from suffering, in my view, that is a misconception. You have confused the concepts. So then it comes back to, okay, if I willingly engage in the unknown and I open up enough to allow and entertain these things, what is the utility of belief? The utility of belief is that it organizes my philosophy and governing reasoning about how I engage with the world. And so therefore the purpose of those fables is an attempt to give some common values for humankind to essentially take care of one another.
I've got to say, as you were talking, there was a couple of things. I might have just dropped one. It's most probably gone. But I was just thinking of. I was thinking on a from a collective. I'm thinking about dimensions, and this might, hopefully this isn't going to be too over the top for our people listening, but I was thinking,
they can handle it.
Just go. So I was just thinking about what you were saying, and when you're the world has been a third dimensional world, right? And the third dimension is the lowest dimension that's got a self-conscious ability, right? And so here we've been moving in evolution from third dimension into fourth and fifth. We've been doing that for as long as I've been alive, right? And so I was thinking about that whole process of how we third dimension is very dualistic, hot and cold, good and bad, right and wrong, and so very factual. It's got to be grounded. It's got to it's
all about the how, right? It's all about
yes.
concrete steps that we get to here, and then we get to here, and then we get to here, and then we get to here, and we can actually there is no unknown. It's all certain.
Yes, it's all grounded. It's all very like earth based, and so and that's why everything is being seen as very factual, and the belief systems just follow regardless of things. If they don't make sense, just do it anyway. Even because there's so many contradictions. I hear it from Christians on a regular basis. There's that there's contradictions in the Bible in itself, right? But there's contradictions in science. There's contradictions in so many different things. When you're at this level, move up those levels into a higher dimension where you're not in those realms of fact, but you're in how did you describe it? Asha, you were saying when you're in the place where it's not necessarily fact, but you're coming from the place of
philosophy or metaphysical.
Metaphysical. You said something else. I'm just trying to think of the word though. But when you're coming from a place of just knowing and having true faith in that we're here experiencing life, we're here to be more than what we experience ourselves as this limited being. And as Nicolette was saying, like the conversations go straight back into those divisions, which is so third dimensional, right? When we can experience ourselves in fourth and fifth dimension, that's when you really start putting the puzzle pieces together and recognizing that all of it is fable and all of it is us on another level, choosing to experience ourselves in the creation of things through the word, through through different stories and myths, and that they all have that that same pattern to them regardless. It's so true. Like, it just clicked with me that that's why where there's so much division, is because it's the third dimension, and waking up to the unknown and allowing that unknown. Because it's very interesting, as you were talking, Asher, I was thinking that's really interesting, because I saw Nicolette and I the other way around, unknown into the known, like the science of things, trying to move into the language of the factual stuff, like I hear something and I feel into it and I know whether it's true or not. My kids want me to tell them the facts of what, like the science behind it, like I'm saying, this is how I feel. I know, and I'm intuitively knowing that this is not right. It's very challenging to express that to the other way, coming from the other way, needing fact first and then having the belief and the faith in it after.
What was coming up for me when Asha was talking was the law of attraction. And I get, anyone who knows me well knows that I'm very impatient. And I get impatient with the third dimension. I get impatient with people who are insisting on sitting in the in the disconnection, or because I know in my bones that if I want to attract and make a reality my dreams, then I have to put myself there, surrender to the unknown, and acknowledge that I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I feel the truth in where I'm headed and my mission and my purpose and what I want in this life. It's so real to me that the third dimensional barriers that we put in place, I don't like to focus there for very long, because to me that's just a waste of time.
The
So
narrative
that attraction is what was coming up for me.
Completely. And on that, because I feel like the more the dots can be connected for a shared language, because and Elizabeth, one of the things that you have repeatedly said, which is just so beautiful, when you tap into the gravity, majesty, and profound truth of the power of sound frequency, i.e. the word, right? So you've repeatedly said about from the Big Bang there was light and sound, right? And in those first words of the Bible, you might just have to remind me of the exact phrasing, but essentially
it said, God said, "Let there be light."
Yes.
And it is, and it was,
Yes.
God said,
Yes.
it was a voice. He was speaking it in truth.
Exactly. And so now what some fanciful science has shown us is that matter is created through sound frequency, which is mind-blowingly staggering when you consider that, and you consider the truth of those first words in the Bible, right? So, and there is another phrasing that I'm just trying to recall, but like I said, like that side of things is very new to me, but it's essentially and through the spoken word the world was created, or something to that effect,
and it was,
right? Yeah. And so where this brings to in terms of the spoken word, sound frequency, and then if everything is frequency, then we get back into energy, right? Which is, to your point, Nicolette, around the law of attraction. And what I have been entertaining and what I find fascinating about this area is we found the divinity within through experiencing the oneness within. And when you experience the oneness within, you recognize that oneness is
everywhere.
Is the fabric of everywhere, and is the fabric. Yeah. And so when you realize the oneness and operate life from that place of oneness, you start operating with grace and ease, right? And so for me, that's the law of attraction, because now you're one with and gracefully receiving, gracefully emitting. And the irony is that humans learn through contrast, right? So then because a lot of the debates I've been watching, you see these opposing forces, which then begs the question, what's the purpose? And it's the fact that learning occurs through contrast. And one of the contrasts that I see missing for people without belief is purpose. Because if I don't have belief, what is the purpose? And then we get into nihilistic territory.
And I've got to say that's I've said for so many years, like so long, that like when you look at the world, right, and there's abuse and there's hunger and there's like there's water shortages and all of this stuff that's going on, and like I just looked in religions and all of these things that are going on in the world. I used to go to the next, like, why is that? And I really just came to, every single time I'd come to this peak of, if we were to understand that, have a belief in something separate from us that is actually truly us too, like that's the dichotomy of it all, is that we are, an aspect of a higher intelligence. That would make such a huge, like, all those barriers would break down. But when we don't have a belief, or like when that belief's been separated and pulled apart and ripped and now we're in this place where people are confused about who they are and their religion and what they believe in, and so they atheism and all that sort of stuff, of not having anything. When you live, you live, and when you die, you die. It's like, oh my gosh, like, how do they survive? And that's why there's so much devastation on the planet, is if you don't have a belief in something, other than this, like, I just feel so much compassion for and empathy for people, because like that, no wonder you're relying on yourself and humanity, and like, oh my gosh, like, how could we do that? And it's a crazy thing to think, that, I mean, as you were just saying, Asha, the whole idea of the contrast is it's really, when you really look at it, like, you've just got to appreciate the beauty and the intelligence of whatever it is, whatever the consciousness is, the intelligence of this thing is amazing.
And I think that the contrast helps us to, like, I just keep coming back in my mind to the contrast for me of being in that beautiful movement yoga session in my heart space, and then coming out of it, and the words that people were choosing, which dropped the vibration and the consciousness straight back into the 3D. And they were using words like war, and that to me showed me exactly where I want to be. And exactly where I want to be is in divine love, in that ever-loving kindness that we can show to ourselves and other people, and to, for me personally, to show people how to be in that beautiful heart open divine love space as much as they possibly can, because that's where it's at. That's where the faith is.
That's where we're going to heal, right? And that's where, and this is going a little bit off topic, and I know we have to wrap it up, but the very fact, like you ladies, I get stuff at the moment, in my inbox and all sorts of places with what's going on in Australia, as at the moment particularly. And someone sent me something this morning, and it was like, wow, this is, you drop in and you go, holy crap, like this is what's really going on that level. And as I said to that woman, okay, I've watched it, I'm going to take action on it. And then, as I said to this woman, now take action and now go back into what we choose to create. Because if we don't, we're going to be creating that, and we're going to be creating more division and more scarcity and more, all of this stuff. And so don't bury your head in the sand, and, take action when action's needed.
Move on.
Have righteous anger when righteous anger is needed. And then step out of that and move back into, because as you said, that divine love, Nicolette, is shifting the frequency of the planet, and we're moving into that's what we're going to create,
Absolutely. And I think, for me, when because I've really been entertaining this field, because it's really worthwhile entertaining. Something that has been a common thread for all of humankind. There's no bigger reason than to entertain that, which is what is the function of beliefs. Why? And then because we know through contrast, and the three of us have learned, which is a high order skill, to know what it is to exist in neutrality, which means the suspension of all data points. And that's where freedom and peace lives. And it's also the absence of living. Because if you really know what it is to enter neutrality, it is suspension of everything. But the beautiful part about that skill is then you then get to entertain everything in its entirety. And that's what I would encourage people to start entertaining these fields with, is just from a place of entertaining without getting sucked into any of those data points. Because as soon as you've been sucked into a data point, it means that you've lost your sovereignty and your center. Now, to your point, Elizabeth, we then, from that point of suspension and neutrality, we then need to consciously choose, after the weighing up of it all, to go, who do I consciously want to be? What world do I consciously want to be a part of? What is my contribution, which comes back to meaning and purpose, to be the embodiment of that, and that's where my choice comes from. That's where my empowerment comes from. And like Nicolette said, I choose to be the expression of that divine love, to raise the frequency and vibration. So in that, we've made a choice in what we stand for, from the place of non-judgment. And it's in the it's from occupying that place of non-judgment first that you actually get your freedom, which is why when Nicolette was in that environment, she could really see the difference of, or the contradiction or paradox of, guys, you were just one with, and now the single moment we've re-entered our social construct, you've forgotten it all, right? So the trick is always to go, how are these experiences and this energetic vibration that I am now aware of, which means I can exist there consciously, which is what you both do so beautifully and consciously. When you know that is available to you, it's the proactive choice to bring that into your day-to-day life. Yes. And with that, without that being espoused with these techniques, the meaning and purpose is lost. And that for me is the fundamental reason to have an overarching belief system. So when you experience the fullness or greatness that you actually are, you then consciously choose that as your mode of being as you engage in the 3D world. And then that's what makes you a leader in leading the way.
Yeah. Anyway. And as you said, the word that's the most important there is that it's a choice. You know, like you get to choose which way you're going to sit. Are you going to sit in that divine love? You're going to sit in duality, and because they are separate from each other.
We get to choose where our focus lies, and to understand when we're becoming distracted from divine love, and disentangling what that distraction is and why it happened for us, to then get back to divine love.
Because ultimately in what like looking at all the different creation stories, looking at different religions and getting into science and all that sort of stuff when I was younger, I came to, we're all part of a big massive field of everything that we can choose is there, and we chose to come down and experience ourselves as individual, so that we can take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and experience it as time and space, instead of just this massive, like one, if you're all that is, if you're in that field all the time, then you don't get to taste the flavor of a strawberry, like you don't get those,
you don't get to taste the flavor of evolving.
Yes, that's right. And so, like we're here experiencing ourselves as individual and separate, but just let it be an experience, knowing that we're actually divine, knowing that we're divine love,
and being grateful for that experience for that reason. Like we're so lucky to be experiencing this now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Will we do a part 3? Scene 3 is a powerful number.
Sure.
We'll see what comes out after a week of sitting with this ourselves and just let it all untangle again. So that went into some really beautiful places. So we'll do part 3 next week. Take care, everyone. Hopefully we'll work out what happened with Women of Light, and we'll be able to get it on there if it's not on there already. And take care and enjoy your week, and we will catch up with everyone later.
Bye.
See ya.